Welcome to Screen It or Stream It,
where we take a look at a movie that's in theaters now
versus one you can stream at home,
and we try to decide which one should you go with.
This time on Screen It or Stream It, we're going to talk The Dark Tower, the adaptation of Stephen King's, God, how many books is it? About 8 books now?
Wow, 7 at least. Yeah, that's a lot.
A lot of books. So, what is the movie about?
Okay, now mind you, I never read the books, so I came into this fresh, not knowing much of anything, except that there was a Dark Tower, in fact, in the story. So basically it starts off with this young boy named Jake, and he's having these weird dreams, kind of constantly pervasive every night, these weird dreams, and he makes these drawings of them, and he's got his whole room wallpapered, you know, like kind of a little psycho kid would do. And so, not surprisingly, he's being sent to shrinks to, you know, talk about it, and, well, why do you feel this way? And turns out he had suffered childhood trauma. His dad had died when he was young. Of course, that's not really a spoiler, because it happened, it's not even in the movie, they just talk about it. So there's that, and then, as it turns out, though, the dreams were not dreams, they were visions. So he finds this, led to this secret portal in somewhere in Brooklyn or somewhere.
Oh.
Yeah. And it takes him to Midworld.
Yeah, it takes him to Midworld.
And so he ends up finding out all of these things he's been dreaming are true. So he meets up with this gunslinger who is hunting the Man in Black. And basically, the Man in Black is evil, doing evil things, trying to bring chaos and destruction, and the gunslinger's trying to stop him. That's pretty much the gist without getting into any kind of spoilers. But yeah, that's the gist of it. So, we all went to see this. We had mixed feelings going in. What did we rate it?
We gave it 2 stars.
Alright, so, Stephen King. We all like Stephen King. His movies, I think we'd probably agree, have been hit and miss. Some are really great, some of the adaptations are not so good. So what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, so when we went to go see the movie, in our group, we had a lovely array of experience with The Dark Tower.
We really did. I said had never read any of it.
I had read a little bit of it, and we had some people that had read the whole thing and like worshipped it, like, you know, it was the greatest thing ever.
My wife had read every word of every book, every page. In fact, she might have started grousing in the movie before the opening credits had even rolled. She was already upset. So if that tells you anything.
Well, and I have read some of the books, and I'm not in love with it. I really liked the first book. After that, it kind of got weird, and Stephen King is weird. If he makes something, it's going to be weird.
Weird is what Stephen King does best.
But it went a weird, and
too far weird?
It went off the rails for me, and I just had a hard time.
Not your kind of weird.
Yeah, I had a hard time buying into the characters. I will also say that I thought it would be really fun because we had all this different experience, different background, and I was like, how is that going to play out? And it's like directly proportional. The more you have read of The Dark Tower, the more you hate this movie.
That's fair.
Because you
I rated it the highest, having never read the books.
I was in the middle, and
my wife hated it the most. She hated it so much. Man.
And
shoot.
So I want to say I hated the movie, but I don't think I really hated it. I think I had negative connotations going in from all the other press and stuff we had seen.
I was concerned just from the same things, but I more went in with a kind of foreboding feeling, but it exceeded my expectations, which were pretty low.
Well, it wasn't. I don't think it was a horrible movie. I think it was a generically kind of bland, for what it should have been, movie. You take this grand mythos, you know, huge, you know, history and backstory, and it has so much to it, and you come out with kind of it's alright movie. It was really kind of blah. Like, it's generic. Generic is the best way I could.
There is one thing I do want to say on that. The story, from what you guys told me, basically 7-8 books, and they pretty much did all of that in an hour and a half. Or they tried to, I should say, compress that.
They tried to do it without actually doing it.
And to me, even not having read it, it did feel like something that should have been this big, epic, multi-part, very complex story. And it just wasn't, because, again, for time, they just...
Well, and as we sat down and we talked about it and we thought about it, there was so much more. Even not having read the books and not knowing what is there, you just like the character development. Like they tried to develop a little bit, but you didn't get enough to really know. I mean, like, there should have been some more character development.
Yeah,
what's going on with that world? What's going on with that character? Why are they doing anything? Why is this thing that way? And it's a short movie. It's like an hour and a half. Like
on the bright side, though, that did make it feel like a good pace. It moved, and
it went from. I mean, it was bam, 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 bam. It never really like drug as far as like when are we going to get to the next thing? It was something, something, something.
Yeah, it was moving.
But 8 books, 1 movie, and it's an hour and a half movie.
Yeah.
You know, you take a Harry Potter or something like that, and you get a 3-hour movie, and they still leave out. 2/3 of the book.
And I had thought about that. What would happen, having seen all the Harry Potters, which they crammed 7 books into 8 movies? What would happen if you tried to edit that down into an hour and a half movie version? Oh my gosh, I just can't even imagine.
Well, and in fairness, there's talks and rumors, and they're supposed to be working on a Dark Tower TV show that's supposed to go back and kind of delve in deeper. Except even if they do that, that makes it to me seem like the movie was pointless, and because they tried to cram the 8 books, like it started at the beginning and finished at the end, and just kind of skipped everything in the middle. But in doing that, I'm like, okay, well now we're going to go back and fill it in. Well, we've already seen the punchline,
right? Yeah, you've already seen the end. So how is that going to work going back?
You had mentioned the gunfights.
Yes.
And the violence. We like violence.
Yeah. I liked the gunfights for the most part. And I think I had said before too, I have a really high suspension of disbelief to a point. There comes a point though where I'm just lost and I'm like, really? Why? Usually if people fly for no reason, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon comes to mind. And I know there's a reason, and I'm just from the West, so I don't get it, but that just bothered me because it was not explained. Jedi can fly. Well, they don't really fly. They jump good. But that doesn't bother me. I'm cool with that. The Force. Give me a reason.
Well, and we had I, more than anybody else, was kind of harping on this, but the gunslinger, his character, is for the most part a Western gunslinger.
Yeah.
He carries the 6 shooters, and, he talks the talk and walks the walk, and
he shoots real good.
That's fine. But then the kid, so you've got basically 3 main characters, the gunslinger, the kid, and the man in black. So you've got the gunslinger who's basically living in a Western.
Yeah.
You got the kid who's living in this like sci-fi horror world.
Yeah.
And then you've got the man in black who's living in this like high fantasy horror world / sci-fi. And they're all together, and it's a meeting of 3 different worlds that, I mean, anything is possible in movies. People have shown me that, but I don't think they did a good job of blending that together. When you take the gunslinger, and he's really good because he's good with guns, and I'm okay with that. The man in black is a magician.
Basically.
He can do magic, and I'm okay with that. But then when the gunslinger starts doing magically things, and the magician starts shooting bullets without a gun, and flick, 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 and they try to like blend the genres together, and they just don't go. They don't blend, and it. You talked about that suspension of disbelief, and then
that is one of the places they lost me. I mean, I get that they feel like he needs to be able to reload his guns fast, because otherwise, what's he doing with 6 shooters? Everybody else has machine guns. Yeah. Like, what's he doing? But they pushed that way further, in my opinion, than they should have, and it.
Well, there was a scene where he was running down a hallway or through a room, and there was a bunch of guys shooting at him, and he's blocking bullets with the guns and just knocking bullets away.
That didn't need to happen.
There was nothing, and this is at the end of the movie, and there's nothing in the movie to tell you he has abilities like that.
No.
Basically, he's really good with a gun, and he's a little bit stronger than the average. He's got some kind of supernatural strength there, because we saw him kick people.
He better be. He fell through a bus.
Which was terrible.
Through the bus. If they had not lost me to that point, they lost me right there. So I'm like, really? Really?
Well, falling through the bus was bad enough. The horrible CGI, no weight figures that actually went through the bus is And up to that point, I hadn't really thought about the CGI in the movie.
That was the worst.
But that was like someone slapping you in the face with like a CGI board at that point. It was like, look at our CGI! I was like, oh, that was bad.
And it didn't even help the story in any way. If he got injured in the fall, okay, that would have raised the stakes a little. But no, he walked it off.
Well, and in the gunfights. So the gunfights, I really like violence. That should have been my best. Like, that should have been the thing. I'm like, oh, that part's so cool. Check out the gun. And when I say it's a generic movie, like, there's really no rhyme or reason to the gunfights. There's nothing special in them. To me, I'm just watching the gunfights, and I'm like, oh, he's just going to shoot some people. He's going to walk through the room and be fine.
Well,
and he's going to shoot up.
He did make some impossible ricochets. Completely impossible. Like, not even a little impossible. I mean, so impossible that you're sitting there thinking, that's impossible. You can't do that.
And I also think it's funny because we have all these gripes. This is from, filmmaking and watching the movie gripes. Your wife, who read and loved the books,
she had her own set of gripes.
She was literally at one point like clawing the seat and yelling at the screen, and just the way it had totally butchered what was, the story. And I felt the same way about Aragon. If you've ever seen the Aragon movie, I love those books.
I hadn't read the books.
And the movie came out and they went, we don't need those books. We'll just do it. And I kind of get the feeling they did the same thing with the Dark Tower.
The difference for me there, though, is I also did not like the movie Aragon. And I liked this.
I hated the movie.
I liked the Dark Tower movie well enough. I mean, I don't love it. I wouldn't have given it I would have given it 3 stars myself. Of course, we averaged to 2, and that's fine. I think that's acceptable
but again, it just felt for such a fantastical. When you've got gunslingers and magicians and aliens and monsters and it was still bland. Like, it was just bland. And to have all of that and then put it together and it be bland, like, bland is just kind of but when you have all of that and it's bland, it's horrible. It's really like when I came out of the movie, I was like, it's alright. And then the more I think about it, the more I dislike it. And this is definitely one of those where you said somebody had reviewed it and said what it was a movie that they could see being in the bargain bin.
Yeah, collecting dust. That was pretty harsh.
That's like that. That simple statement sums up my opinion about this movie, 100% right there. Just,
Well, I will say, the occasional bad CGI moments aside, the camera work was generally really good. The actors, specifically Idris Elba, was fantastic. I think he did as good a job as he could do in that role. He did great, and I love Matthew McConaughey also, which I didn't like him initially when I saw the previews for him as the Man in Black. But it worked. He played it. It worked.
The kid did all right.
Yeah, the kid did all right.
Did a really good job. But the acting was fine. I didn't have a problem.
Acting wasn't the problem.
It had Jackie Earle Haley in it for like 12 seconds. Who's one of he's one of my favorites. But it doesn't matter how good they do if they don't have something good to do with it.
Right. If you don't have characters that by themselves can hold together everything, which they were good, but they weren't that good. Yeah. Or at least in this version. In the books they were, but from what y'all have told me, but in the movie not so much. And if you don't have a good story to really hold it all together, it falls short.
Well, and like I said, I can't even be angry. I want to be angry at it. It was so bland. I keep using that word, but it's so bland. And it's just a heinous sin.
Yes.
Hey, let's make a sci-fi horror western. That's got to be exciting. Just
Sounds
to
like
describe it as now let's just make it as bland as possible.
In fact, that was the number 2. My cinematography instructor said the number 2 biggest sin you can commit: don't be boring. Just don't do it. Well, if you're not in the mood for boring, if you want something kind of along those lines, but maybe a bit more exciting, better done, what do you got for a streaming option?
Okay, so we got fantastical, right?
Right.
It's over-the-top fantasy. Seems to blend some genres together.
Okay.
We've got this like evil power trying to destroy the world, and we got a young kid who's on a quest to save it.
You're not doing Flash Gordon.
No, I'm doing Flash Gordon.
Okay. Whew.
I'm doing the Never Ending Story.
Ooh.
I know that's one of your favorites. But the Never-Ending Story is, when did that get? 80, mid-80s?
I want to say 85, 86-ish, probably 84. It's right in there, mid-80s.
So in the 80s. The Never-Ending Story is this kid at school who is bullied, and he kind of lives in books. He likes to read, and he gets a book called The Never-Ending Story. He sits down to read it, and most of the story takes place in what it takes place of the book, which is like in his imagination.
Right. So you've got a movie of a kid reading a book, and then you see what he's imagining in the book as in the magical land of Fantasia.
And the nothing, which is this nothingness, it's like a black hole of...
It sounds ridiculous when you say it, but in the story it really worked and is one of the creepiest evil forces I've ever seen.
It's just like
the
entire universe is disintegrating, like it's just going away, and it's just because they're magical beings that exist in a book, and no one believes in them anymore. No one reads the stories, and so they're fading away. And they're trying to fight this nothing. But how do you fight nothing?
Yeah.
But you get kind of the supernatural and the fantastical. Watching it as a kid, it has some absolutely horrifying elements.
Oh yeah,
and it's a kid's movie, and as an adult, it's like, oh yeah. But I mean, as a kid, some of the things were
traumatizing. There are two moments specifically that are just utterly gut wrenching for a kid, and then there's several more that are just so creepy and terrifying. It's like, oh my gosh! Like you've got the statues that are talking and falling apart because the nothing's eating them away, and then. I'm not going to talk about the Swamps of Sadness, but it was very sad and traumatizing for a kid.
Well, see, that wasn't even what I was thinking. I'm not going to spoil anything. We'll have to discuss this once they leave.
Yes.
But you get that great fantastical. It's this epic story. It's trying to save the world, and then in the end, he gets sucked into this world, and finds out it's real, and he has to save it.
Yeah.
And it's just a great epic fantasy. Great characters. Really neat story, great visuals, and I know it's old, but because it's old, it's pretty much pre-CGI, so it looks real.
Yeah.
And Never-Ending Story is really good.
That is a fantastic choice. I wish I had thought of it, but I didn't. I'm going actually in the opposite direction, leaving all the fantasy stuff behind, and I really keyed on to the Western aspect and the revenge as kind of a central theme.
Not cowboys and aliens, right?
No. No. I actually chose Unforgiven. Clint Eastwood, Morgan Freeman, Gene Hackman. Fantastic movie if you've not seen it.
Great Western, but great movie.
Great movie, great Western. Now, it's got none of the magic, but it does... it works well without it. But basically, Gene Hackman is the sheriff, and he's not exactly an evil man, but he's a bad guy. He's a ruffian with a badge, basically. So he does bad things and basically keeps the peace, but... He crosses Clint Eastwood in a very, very bad way, which...
It's never a good idea.
Not in a Western. Don't cross Clint Eastwood.
Obviously has not watched any of Clint's other movies.
Clearly. So, anyway, things develop, and it gets pushed to the point of beyond safe return. I think he kills one of Clint Eastwood's friends or something.
Yeah.
And so then Clint Eastwood just goes on a rampage, starts killing anyone that gets in his way as he's hunting down the sheriff. And it's a revenge piece, and it's got good gunfights, and, that's just that Western feel and stuff.
If I'm not wrong, it was directed by Clint Eastwood too.
Yes.
I mean, it's directed well, shot well. It's a great Western, great actors, great story, great character development.
So definitely go watch it. Your pick was better this time. But that is all our time for this week. Thank you so much for watching Screen It or Stream It.
And remember, don't take your kids to the movies on Tuesdays because that's when we go.